Hey, I'm Jeff Paul at solarpowerpeople.org and Jeff Paul 11 on Instagram. Right now we have a really cool episode with another cool guest. If you haven't guessed, who are you? What are you about? Tell us what this is all about.
My name is Jeremy Vanderhal, and I'm a fighter pilot and a test pilot in the Air Force.
Awesome. Thank you for allowing us to wear this helmet. I'm going to be talking a little bit louder because I can barely hear. But how did this come to be? What made you choose this line of work?
So I grew up here in Los Angeles, and through a good chunk of high school, I thought I wanted to work in special effects in movies. It seemed interesting at the time, and it is. I still kind of do that as a hobby. One day, I got an elective in class called Aviation Science, where it was basically just the FAA ground school of how to fly a helicopter. And upon graduation from that class, my teacher took me on a little helicopter ride around Van Nuys and most of downtown LA. And I'd never been in a small anything before, aircraft, and I loved it. And I said, I need to do this as a career. I ended up getting my helicopter license in high school, and then I went to the Air Force Academy. I flew gliders as an instructor pilot at the Academy. I went to pilot training. I flew fighters, and the rest took off from there.
There's so much to ask, but in terms of schooling and stuff like that, is there a really cool takeoff story or anything of that nature that's just really speaks to you right now in terms of when you were out there in the airplanes and all that?
As far as something that happened in the sky that led me to it, it's one of the most challenging things for any new student to do in an airplane or a helicopter, in my case, is the first day that you solo, right? Because you are, up until that point, you've got an instructor there with you and he's kind of your safety net. So if you screw something up, he's there to grab the controls and keep you in a safe place. But that first time that you go and take off and you're the only one in the airplane or the only one in the helicopter, you literally have your own life in your own hands. But by that point, obviously, they're not gonna let you go unless they know you're ready for it. But then just that after you land and you shut down and you get out, it fills you with so much confidence, and you just look back at it and you're like, wow, I did this. I was the only one there, and it just gives you that ability to know that if you can do that, you can do anything.
Okay, and you didn't come from a military family or anything?
Not at all, no. My grandfather and great-grandfather were, but no, none of my immediate family members were.
Okay, so it's just this is all from happenstance and from your life and all that. I mean, that's crazy. These are the fun questions that are just for my own curiosity. Do you get to practice pressing the button to shoot yourself out during an emergency, even if there is somebody co-pilot and not destroy a plane? Is that a thing at all?
No, not in the actual airplane. No, when you're in an actual fighter with an actual rocket literally underneath your seat, you look at it and you recognize I am sitting on a rocket right now. I better not pull these. And in fact, there is a switch that you have to do to arm the seat or disarm it when you're getting out. So we don't do that. But there's a ground trainer where, yes, you do that, you practice it, you actually practice pulling, so you know what it feels like to actually pull the ejection handles. But no, in the actual airplane, I'm very careful to not even come close to touching those.
And then have you gone to take off on a carrier?
No, that's more Navy and Marines. I did, when I was in test pilot school, there was a Navy pilot in our class, and she did actually arrange for us to get a tour of an aircraft carrier. I got to be a passenger on a cargo plane that landed and took off from it, but I was not the one actually at the controls. I like nice solid ground with long runways and 4-star hotels and not living on a boat.
I'm always curious how each branch, excuse my ignorance, how they talk to each other and let each other kind of do a thing or not.
Yeah.
But okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
Can you kind of paint a quick picture of how you're in the plane, you're ready to take off? What are the kind of steps you have to do?
Yeah, so, I mean, backing up, even before that, it is not as simple as, hey, let's go fly today, get in the plane and go. It is, what is our purpose that we're flying today? Are we today, so the most recent jet I flew was an F-15, so purely an air-to-air fighter. So today, are we flying BFM, basic fighter maneuvers, dog fighting, right? So it's just us two fighting against each other. Or are we going out to do a major air-to-air war where there's gonna be could be up to 100 airplanes in the sky fighting against each other, and it takes days or maybe even weeks of planning to get up to that point. It's not just a flying club. You're hey guys, let's go fly today, see what happens. It is very meticulous planning and briefing and preparation and making sure that everybody knows what they're doing, because we're just doing this for training, but you still have the very real possibility, even in training, of getting hurt or injured or even killed if you don't do the right thing and you're not safe about it. So it takes a lot of preparation to make sure that you're doing everything right. Then once you're on the day of the flight, then you're just in execution mode. We brief, we get all our stuff ready, we get in the airplane, we start it up, we do radio checks, we do all the avionics checks, We get to the end of the runway, call for takeoff clearance, and now the fun part starts, right? So you taxi out onto the runway, you make sure that everything's still good, you do one last check of your engine, plug the throttle into afterburner, and then you double check again. Hey, yep, you see the nozzle swings and make sure that the nozzle's opening, and that means that the afterburner is lighting off, and you'll know right away because you get kicked back in the seat a little bit. So you're like, yep, that's the afterburners are definitely working. You start running down the runway, and then you lift off, and as soon as you see you're off the ground, the gear comes up immediately, because especially if it's like a nice cold day and you got a lot of thrust out the back, you got to get the gear up before you can overspeed the gear. Like literally, you're going so fast, you have so much thrust out there that the structural limit of the gear, the landing gear, could be oversped if you don't get the gear up fast enough, because that's how much thrust is going out the back of an F-15. Gear comes up, you check, yep, the gear's up. All right, you stay in afterburner, you start climbing up and away, and like depending on what type of climb you're doing, you could be like literally like pointing back right there and looking back down behind you at the earth. Sometimes that's called an unrestricted climb. That's really fun. We don't do that very often. Well, I've done it. Yeah, we do it a bunch of times for fun. It's not really practical on a regular basis, but it's more fun. It can be though. Actually, you do it a lot in combat zones because it lets you get up and away from the ground fast. There is a reason to do it. It makes it a little bit more difficult to like rejoin, because normally that's the other thing too about an F-15. You don't ever go anywhere by yourself. You always have at least one other person with you, and that's your wingman, right? But actually in F-15s, we typically like to go in four, because like an Eagle 4 ship, F-15 Eagle, an Eagle 4 ship is like the most deadly combination of airplanes known to Earth right now. Like, don't mess with them.
I could ask a million questions in a million different ways, but to kind of like wrap it up, can you describe the feeling of like the fastest speed you went? What toll is that? Like what is going on just physically?
Yeah, actually a lot of people always ask that. And as far as how fast you go, you wouldn't even know. Like I've gone supersonic so many times, and sometimes I don't even realize that I'm going supersonic, because the only thing that changes is like the little gauge in front of you that says, hey, you were going Mach 0.9 and now you're going Mach 1.1. What you do feel is pulling G's. So pulling G's is, have you ever gone on like a roller coaster like that goes on a loop, and you go through that loop and you kind of feel like for a second you're kind of compressed a little bit down in your seat? Okay. So that's because right now here, you and I standing here, we're at 1 G. So like the Earth is accelerating us down at 9.8 meters per second, right, or 32.2 feet per second. That's 1 G. When you go in a roller coaster, you're accelerating into that turn, and that force pulling you to the center, and therefore the opposite force pushing you down to the side, that's increasing to that. So probably in a roller coaster, you're feeling like 2 Gs. So meaning like if your hand is here and you kind of just drop it right now, you kind of feel that weight. At 2 Gs, it would feel like it's going like this. The F-15 and the F-16 and most modern fighters can pull 9 Gs. So when that happens, your body weighs 9 times as much as it normally does. Like it feels like it's that. So like the immediate effects are, you can feel your cheeks start to drag down like this. You feel just weight on your body. You feel your weight all the way down there. And the real risk actually is, because you're feeling it, that means your blood is feeling it too, which means your blood could in theory drain away from your brain and pass out. And that's called G-LOC, G-induced loss of consciousness. And so there's a maneuver that we do with our body called the anti-G straining maneuver, anti-G straining maneuver. And what you do is you squeeze the lower half of your body, and you take very short, controlled breaths in order to keep the blood pressure from getting down to your feet, keeping the blood pressure up in your brain so you don't pass out. Okay. And you have to do all that while you're also flying a multi-million-dollar airplane and trying to point the gun at the guy that you're trying to kill, or get out of the way of the gun of the guy that's trying to kill you. It's a lot of mental work and physical work, and I'm usually dripping sweat by the end of a fight. Really? Oh yeah.
Like when you take off your like jumpsuit, you're just like a pool.
By the end of the fight, I mean, or by the end of the time you land, I mean literally just like dripping in sweat. It's insane.
Obviously, like I said, we could keep going. I just kind of want to end it with like fun questions.
Yeah.
One question is there a movie that like that's like the closest that you feel like if people wanted to be like, well, I can't go to every Air Force, and is there a movie that best represents?
Well, I mean, the obvious answer is like Top Gun and Top Gun 2, right? Yeah, there was some, some of it was very Hollywoodized, and I understand why they made some choices to make it look good, but there are some real things that actually made a lot of sense and were pretty accurate for Top Gun. So like the one example I always talk about in the original Top Gun, not the most recent one, where Maverick goes, I'm gonna hit the brakes and he's gonna fly right by, right? Like the whole point, like there's a guy right here, he's being chased, and so he hits the brakes with the idea of this guy flying right by. You're not necessarily gonna just like slow down, because that's pretty easy to do, but the concept behind it is accurate, right? If I'm here and this guy's here trying to kill me, what I want to try to do is like min-range his weapon. So I'm going to try to turn and slow down as much as I can so that he can't get his nose pointed at me in order to shoot me. And then eventually he might actually overshoot my turn, and now I'm back behind him and getting in a position to shoot. So as silly as it sounds, hitting the brakes and flying right by, that actually on a tactical level actually is kind of what we do.
Okay. What about that upside down scene?
No, that one probably not, no.
Okay, final question.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a fun one, and it's one of those that I like to end it with, if you could make the world a better place or just a little easier or less stressful, it could be anything.
Oh man.
It's one of those spontaneous questions I like to ask people.
That is a good spontaneous question. I mean, I'll keep it in terms of flying. When I do go fly, and like these really intense missions, right? You're just like focused, super focused, intense every time, and there's really not a lot of time to relax. The only time on most sorties where you have like even just a quick moment to breathe is on the way home. Like you've done the fight, you've disarmed everything, you're just heading home. And some of the most like serene times that I've ever had, like ever, have been in those like couple of minutes where I'm looking around, and for me personally, I'm like in this like amazing fighter. I'm like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this right now. But kind of more big picture is like every now and then it's just recognizing those moments in life where you just be thankful for where you are, right? And it's just like, take a breath and be like, it's beautiful, this is awesome. I'm just so glad to be here right now.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
Jeremy, everybody, you'll find us information where information will be found and it will pop up. Thank you so much. And thank you, Jeff Coven, for being part of this also. So, all right. Take care, everybody.
See ya.
Hey, everybody, I have some exciting news. I wrote another kid's book, Uncle Duncle. I drew the pictures, I wrote the story. Please support, I'd really appreciate it. I also wrote The Giraffe and the Lion. That's another one, so collect them all if you have kids or if you don't. It's just a fun read. Really appreciate it. Take care, everybody.